Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday's edition, I think, of Big Blue Kickoff Live, brought here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. Schmeelk and Dottino with you for the next hour, talking Giants football. We'll open up the phones early and often, folks, 201-939-4513. Get in, talk some Giants football with us. This was the Giants' last practice before they're getting ready for preseason game number 2 against the Carolina Panthers on Friday night. Paul, first of all, how you doing? Good to see you.
Nice day again today, John. After that horrible rain overnight, I wasn't sure what we were going to see today, but the Giants had decided because of the soft turf outside, they were going to move the practice into the field house. And so you had all 90 players in there. And as you know, and the folks, you've probably heard us talk about this before, when you have 90 guys early in training camp and you move them into the field house, there is always a safety hazard because there's too many big bodies running around. And you're afraid guys are going to trip on each other, clunk into each other. So the practice was obviously scaled back from what we would have normally seen on a day like today.
Yeah, and a couple of other notes. This was supposed to be on the original schedule of padded practice, so they pulled it back a little bit. It was just in shorts. That's a note. Another note, this is really the first day where they did like a fully carded practice where you basically, it's a game planning day. So you really, I don't think there was one session where it was first team offense versus first team defense, just go straight out compete. So basically, folks, how this works, we've explained this before. I apologize if this is the third or fourth time you're hearing this over the years. But basically what they'll do, they'll show one side of the ball a play before the play in practice. And that play is supposed to simulate something the opponent will do in the upcoming game. So they'll show the Giants defense. If the offense is live, they'll show the Giants defense a typical defensive scheme that the Panthers run. Your players are supposed to look at the card. They literally show them a card in the huddle before the players run. Do this. Then they'll go the other way. They'll give the offense a card. Do this. And then the defense will run the typical Giants play. So you're giving your other side of the ball a look, and it's not a full competitive situation. For example, there was a play in a deep ball where they're throwing it deep. Might have been Hyatt, and Pinnock come over to make a play. He doesn't make a play. He does this and just stands next to the guy catching the ball because you're not trying to break up the ball because you're just trying to give the offense a look. So that's why there's no practice report from me today, because it's not a full-out competitive go right at each other thing. This is a prep and get ready for the game type of practice, not your typical training camp, go at it, ones versus ones, try to get better type of practice.
Yeah, right. And part of the reason also is that they're only in shells, as you mentioned, John, not in full gear. So you don't want contact. You don't want anybody getting hurt. They're wearing the safety shells on top of their helmets, too, to make sure that nobody clocks helmets.
Last week for those, right?
I believe so.
Or was it expanded to all of preseason this year?
I think this is the last week, but I'm not going to be quoted on that.
Maybe it was next year they expanded to all preseason?
Either way, they've been playing around with those rules for a while. The one thing that does count, and the coaches are all grading execution. So even though they are carded, and John is right that half of the team knows what's going on, there is still, for example, on offense, let's say they're carding the defense on a particular series. Well, now the offense is going to run their play against whatever the carded defense was. Well, it's important that the quarterback makes an accurate read, an accurate throw, and that the receiver runs the right route and makes the right catch. So there is still an execution grade, usually to the other side of the card.
Especially assignment-wise. Okay. They want to make sure you have your assignment correct.
So it's important. I don't want people to think it's not, because everything is graded. Everything is graded, but it's a different type of grade that they'll get in a carded practice. So that's why in my practice report today, I did have eye-openers and highlighted things. I think for a second here, John, if we just want to go over it, some of the things that did happen today that were really good. Jones did find Hyatt on a fingertip grab down on the left sideline, which I don't know how in the world he got that ball with his fingernails, but he did. It was a really, really nice catch. Hyatt also caught the bomb that you're talking about, 60 yards. Perfect throw from Daniel Jones. Caught it in stride. He would have been gone for a 60-yard touchdown. I saw a really nice pass defense by Jackson on Crowder, where he was right there. We saw interceptions by McCain, and we saw an interception by Jackson as well. We saw blanket coverage by Hawkins, who, this was interesting. He was guarding Hodgins on the boundary. Hodgins went deep to go grab like a 50-yard route, and Hawkins was right in his shirt every step of the way. Now, he didn't contact him, John, as you said. They're not doing contact. But he was practically wearing his shirt. He was right on him. And that's great. You want to see the guy going step for step with one of your top wide receivers when they're 50-plus yards down the field. So that's a good play, and you're going to give Hawkins a really nice grade on that play. And then I also saw Crowder make a really fine contested catch on a pass from Jones. He was contested by Adoree Jackson. And then finally, the last one, it was a bomb from Jones to Slayton, where the ball was a bit overthrown, and Jackson kind of gave up on the play and turned his back. And then Slayton turned around, spun, stopped, made the catch, and then Jackson just never saw him and then ran right by him. So had that been in a competitive situation, Slayton would have caused a bad play to turn into a good play, probably could have gotten up and scored a touchdown. So those are like there were a lot of eye-openers today, even though it was a carded practice.
201-939-4513, hashtag Giants Chat. We also heard from the assistant coaches today and media availabilities. I have to go back and watch some of the stuff that we filmed because I didn't have a chance to. They're all talking at the same time, so you can't hear all of them at once. I got to go back and listen to the stuff that we filmed. So I listened to a few of the guys, Paul. I listened to the start of Bobby Johnson talking about Azudu and Bredesen and Schmitz. I didn't get a whole lot out of that. Did he ever get to Parrott and how he's been playing at tackle?
No,
no one asked him that?
No, not in the portion that I heard. Again, like John says, all the assistants come out at once. One side of the ball and then the other side of the ball, and you're literally trying to play musical chairs, hopping and bopping around. So I try to get a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit over there. I did not hear anything about Pert from Bobby Johnson. But I will say this. He's very animate in following Brian Daboll's mantra about they're looking for the best line they can find. If it's 5 guys, fine. If it's 6 and they got to turn out to rotate a guy like they did last year, they're not going to be afraid to do it, John. They're not. I don't think that's the best way to go, but if they think it is, they're going to do it.
I think they'll settle on 5 this year.
I hope so. That's what they want to do. I don't think there's any doubt they want to. But right now, I'll tell you, I don't think it's coach speak. I think we're seeing quite a battle there at the guard spot.
Yeah, both guard spots.
Yeah.
We've seen Bredesen as the starting right guard pretty much all week.
Bredesen, Azudu, and Glowinski.
And, of course, the minute I make my little proclamation last week or 2 weeks ago that Glowinski's going to be the starter, they start putting Bredesen at right guards. What the hell I know.
Both Dable and Johnson have said it's a terrific competition. And quite honestly, I thought Shane Lemieux had a really solid second half in Detroit the other day. I don't think he's in the starters mix, but I think Shane Lemieux has come back from a couple of injury-plagued seasons to put himself in a good spot on the 53.
Yeah, I think he's the guy you can move around to both guard spots and the center spot as your second depth piece inside. Whichever one doesn't start from Glowinski, Bredesen, Azudu, Schmitz.
Right.
Plus Lemieux, I would say, is probably the pecking order right now in terms of interior offensive linemen. I did not have a chance to listen to Mike Groh. I know you were there.
Yes.
What did you get out of Mike Groh? Dom, do me a favor. Can you pass me my pad, Dom, when you get a second for me? Thank you.
Yeah, Mike was very animate about how great this competition is in the wide receiver room. He really wasn't showing any of his cards, to be frank with you, John, and I know you were kind of hoping that he would, so was I. But Mike has taken some lessons from both Brian Dable and Mike Kafka about having conversation with the media and not really giving out too much.
Well, where did Mike Groh coach before, Paul?
Yeah, exactly. I hear you. Let me see here. What did I get from Mike? Mike, I got out of him wide receivers, very competitive room. Shepard is coming along well, but they're still pacing him. They are going to want to see what he's able to do in a preseason game at some point. His comment about his rehab shows he still has reliable hands. He has high energy. He has toughness, but we still have to ramp him up, and we haven't gotten a chance to see him in games yet. So that's still a to be determined on Shep. He did say about Beasley, who, by the way, Coach Dable said he has a sore leg and has not worked the last 2 days. His comments on Beasley, very instinctive, crafty, gets separation in a small space, and then has a burst to get the first down. How can you not be enamored with Cole Beasley if you're watching practice, John?
I think he gets open. I mean, that's as simple as I can put it. The guy, if you put him one-on-one in the slot, the guy gets open.
Now,
And makes the catch.
having said that, all he does is make plays. But now he's missed 2 days of practice because of a sore leg. And I don't know how that factors in. We didn't.
Honestly, Paul,
I don't know.
I don't think it does.
I hope not.
Don't we all know what Cole Beasley is by now?
I do.
I don't think there's any new information there.
Unless there's something there that's gonna delay his return. I've already thought to myself he's on the 53. I said that the other day on the show. I think I got to keep him. I have to.
He's leaning more on than off for me at this point. And he had to show me, because remember, the point I've made before is that he was a free agent all last fall.
I know.
And the Giants were among other teams that chose not to bring him in. I think he eventually went back to the Bills, but not until the middle of December or something like that.
For a couple of games.
So,
here's what Ellsgrove said. Hyatt came in very hungry and humble, diligent to learn the plays. He's made plays. He's done a good job. Hodgins, reliable, tough. You can see the improvement from him. He has grown since last year. And about Slayton, he said he kept his head down, gained confidence last year, and made plays. And he continues to grow in confidence this year. So those are all the comments that I got out of him about the wide receivers. And I think that, the one thing that's curious to me, John, we've talked about Colin Johnson as a guy you'd like to see in the mix. But he's a bubble guy, right? Mm-hmm. We both believe that. He goes and gets a sprained knee the other night in Detroit.
He was out catching off the jugs machine before practice today, which was good to see.
He was on the jugs machine on the side, but did not actually practice.
Or run around much.
Mm-hmm. And you hate to say it, but when the competition is this tight, those kinds of things could wind up making a difference. And I hope over the next 2 or 3 weeks, he's able to represent himself well on the field so that he has a real chance.
You hope he plays in the third preseason game.
Yeah, for sure.
He's not going to play this weekend.
No.
So you hope he plays in the third preseason game. And if he can't, the good news for the Giants, not for Colin, and everyone who reads my stuff and listens to me, I'm a huge Colin Johnson guy.
Yeah.
You should be able to get him onto the practice squad.
Well, the thing is, at the time of the cuts, when they actually get down to the 53, he can't be hurt. Because if he's hurt, you can't waive him to sneak him onto the practice squad. Right. If he's hurt now, you have to IR him or reach an injury settlement with him, which means then you can't bring him back till the middle of the year. So that gets a little sticky.
Yeah, I mean, they don't seem to think it's serious. So my guess is that they could get him onto the practice squad.
They seem to believe it's minor, so let's see.
Shea Tierney, a couple things from him, Paul, said things, the simple things come easier for a quarterback in year 2, so Daniel can kind of focus on the other stuff. That's something he talked about. He's been a good problem solver in the offense, and the defense shows him something they haven't really practiced against. He's been good at kind of solving that on the fly, and he's been working on some of his off-platform throws, different arm angles, stuff like that over the course of the preseason and practice. So those are the 3 or 4 points that I got from Shea when I was listening to him. He's the Giants quarterbacks coach, by the way.
I think the other one that was of real interest to me as we went around and tried to get little tidbits, the one thing that I thought was really cool, Jerome Henderson was talking about Banks.
Yeah, I did not listen to Jerome today, so
he said he was really, really happy with the competition that the 2 rookies, Hawkins and Banks, have given to everybody else. These guys have really done well. You know that, John. In fact, you've been even higher on Hawkins than I have been. I'm still in a little bit of a wait-and-see mode. But
I'm just going based on what I'm seeing.
I know, and it's good. It's good.
I mean, just the way that coaches have elevated him so quickly, I think, sends a message.
He's earning those reps. I can't take that away from him. I'm still trying to pump the brakes a little because I don't want to get carried away.
This role reversal is odd, but okay.
Isn't it? But here's what he said. Here's what was interesting. He said Banks is very competitive, and it went up in the game to a new level. Now, he said, what I want is for him and Hawkins to realize now that they're professionals, they got to be able to take it to that level all the time, every day. And not just get super sky high for a game. You got to be able to always keep that competitiveness every day in practice and keep that intensity notched up. He also said that Banks has extremely strong hands. They found that out. And the other day, remember in Detroit, there was a pass where I thought he may have deflected it. You thought the receiver had dropped it. And then on the replay, I thought that Banks got his hand in there, not to maybe even touch the ball, but to knock the receiver's hand loose so that the ball came free. Henderson corrected one of the writers who said he thought that wasn't a good grade for Banks because he thought the receiver dropped it. and it should have been a completion. And Jerome Henderson said, no, I disagree. I gave him a good grade on that play because he showed that he had the strong hands enough to inhibit the catch and cause the receiver not to hold on. He said he's got very strong hands, and he's impressed with that. He said that's a very key element because you can knock the ball free.
Okay, I won't argue with the defensive backs coach, but I think on the film you see the ball's out of the receiver's hands before his hand even hits the arm. But yes, he did what he's supposed to do. Even though the other receiver had a step on him, he did get his hand in there. He did hit the arms. I just thought it was after the drop had already happened. But yes, the fact that he stayed focused, did not commit a defensive pass interference penalty.
Tight coverage.
And he was within a step of him or so. I mean, for NFL standards, he's open. And he gets his hand in there, and he did hit the guy in the arm. So,
and quite honestly, we've seen guys before, receivers, deflect the ball, juggle it, and then catch the ball.
Sure.
So there's still, he will still
100%.
get credit for a pass defense.
Yes, correct. Absolutely.
And that's what I think Jer Henderson's point was.
Two other real quick points before we get to your calls. I want to touch on the Kayvon Thibodeau thing, too. I talked to John Agrogu, the inside linebacker coach. He was pretty happy with Carter Coughlin and how he played in the game. He got a lot of inside reps and inside linebacker. He thought both him and Cam Brown. And Cam Brown, he says, has had a pretty good camp as those guys try to stay on as inside linebackers. He thought the two off-ball inside linebackers, the undrafted guys, did a really nice job. Unfortunately, they had to release injured, and the name's escaping me this morning, the undrafted free agent, not Deontay Johnson, the other guy.
Not
Brown?
Johnson.
Hey,
Troy Brown?
Yeah.
He got cut this morning?
We waived injured, yes.
I'm sorry, I did not. I know Devery Hamilton.
Roster? Do you have a roster over there?
Devery Hamilton was waived injured.
I believe.
Brown was this morning, too?
So, yeah. I believe I saw
did not see that.
I think I saw Dan Salomon tweet that, if I'm not mistaken.
I did not see Salomon's tweet.
I will double check that, make sure that I'm not mistaken here. Let me see here, Mr. Salomon.
I know Deontay Johnson actually did some things the other day in Detroit.
Yeah, they signed
nice.
Julian Davenport this morning, the offensive tackle, waived injured Troy Brown.
Brown was the one who got axed. Okay, I was unaware of that this morning.
Dom, you're doing an excellent job. Usually used to being on stage and doing things publicly, but you're behind the scenes here, so you're doing an excellent job. And then finally, the Thibodeau thing, Wink Martindale in his press conference yesterday said basically in their, what do they call the sessions?
The reality check
check sessions. Thank you. I couldn't think of it. I was going to use a no other type of word sessions, but I know that's not what it is. the reality check sessions.
Keeping it real, as they say.
Yes, exactly. So basically, Wink Martindale said he wants to see more plays made by Kayvon Thibodeau in practice. He wants to see more plays from him. And frankly, I mean, I've said this to you when we've talked privately that he hasn't had a bunch of flash plays in practice. So I totally get where Wink's coming from. And Kayvon talked about that today, and so did Drew Wilkins, that basically Wink and Leonard Williams talked about it too when he spoke to the media, that Wink will basically go in front of the whole team and go player by player and say, look, this is where you are, this is what you got to get better at, this is what the coaching staff thinks of you. And the players seem to really appreciate it.
They do.
So they know what the coaches are looking for. You don't want to be in the dark and not know. It's the same thing when you have a boss, right, in your job. You want to know what your boss is thinking about you, what he thinks what you need to improve on, so you're better at your job. I think everyone appreciates that, right? And Kayvon Thibodeau did talk to the media about that today. He was asked about it. I'm not really sure he addressed that specifically directly, but he did say he appreciated the fact that Wink is honest and that he never minds being told that they want more out of him. And he made the point that what Wink was trying to say, the only one that can make you an all-pro, it's great to say that Wink thinks you could be an all-pro. The only one that can go out and do it is you, Kayvon.
Right.
And he appreciates that. And he's like, look, I'm going to try to go out there and do more. And the feedback since that seems to have been positive.
And I think the other thing about Thibodeau that's very, very important is that everyone agrees that even though he hasn't made many splash plays during camp, his work ethic and attention to detail, according to everybody that you talk to, is off the charts. This is a guy who does want to do the mental reps and do the homework and find the fine-tuning elements to his game so that he can be better. As he even said, and I thought this was good, he says, look, I have to keep getting better or I know you don't stay around too long in this league. You have to continue to work at it all the time. So he is very willing to take you want to call it constructive criticism?
Sure.
Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Very willing to take it. And what I want to see is now, when the lights are on, because we've also talked about this in 15 years of doing this program, John? Some guys are not great practice players, but they show up on Sunday and they're great game players. Plexico Burress was the classic example that I can give you. He was deadly in a game, but during the week at practice, that's not where you really wanted to grade
And you'd
him.
rather have those guys than the guys that are great at practice than when game day shows up and they don't give you anything.
Correct.
Because there are guys that do that too.
Yes, there are. So I'm not saying that you want too many of those guys or that it's really a good thing to do, but I'll give you a great example. Safety Alex Cook, undrafted rookie free agent. He, to me, I finally settled on him as my dark horse. Remember, my dark horses can't be drafted and they can't be a veteran free agent. So my undrafted rookie free agent is Alex Cook, who showed me something in the game against Detroit the other night that I had not seen in practice for the previous 3 weeks.
Well, he did most of his work tackling around the line of scrimmage. What aren't you doing in practice? Tackling around the line of scrimmage.
Bingo. Now, we've had a few padded practices, but he's been working with the third team.
People to the ground.
And
and
he's not showing out.
Yeah.
Okay? I looked back at my notes. I couldn't find him anywhere.
Yeah, I don't remember writing anything.
I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, I agree.
I liked what I saw in Detroit, and I'm saying to you folks, I'm not saying he's going to make the 53, but my promise to you as I try to keep my streak alive is that he will be practice squad and he will be in an active game for the Giants this year, even if it's only on specials. Alex Cook is going to appear in a Giants regular season game this year. And that's my guy.
And I got a tweet about this the other day, and I responded. This was before the whole thing broke with Wink and everything. And I was asked, about Kayvon. Someone made a point that he's not, has not a good practice player. And I'm like, I really haven't seen any of that inconsistent effort stuff that we heard about him coming out of Oregon.
No, I haven't either.
I have not seen any of that. So this is not like an effort not trying and being lazy in practicing. He's out there every day. He has not missed one practice or one drill, I don't think, all summer long. So this isn't an effort thing, but there is a difference between, game speed and non-game speed.
And often in practice, he's going up against Andrew Thomas.
I will say this, by the way, for the first time this year, an edge player actually beat Andrew Thomas one-on-one in a pass rush drill the other day.
The other day.
Aziz got him.
Yes.
Aziz got under his pads and actually got to the quarterback. First time in a one-on-one pass blocking rep that I actually saw Andrew Thomas get beat.
And that includes Detroit, by the way. I saw all the one-on-one reps in Detroit.
During one-on-ones, he did not get beat.
He did not get beat once.
Yes. No, you're right about that.
I mean,
he's good.
He's good.
He's good. All right, 201-939-4513. Go subscribe and download the Giants Huddle podcast. Long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches past and present, plus hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue in the NFL. Search for Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Or go to giants.com/podcast. And if you do follow our podcast on Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star positive review. That will certainly help us out, whether it's Big Blue Kickoff Live or the Giants Huddle or any of our other podcasts. All right, let's get to the phones at 201-939-4513. And let's lead off with whoever's been holding the longest, and that is Tom in Stratford, Connecticut. What's up, Tom?
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
What's up?
Hi.
Listen, I just a couple quick questions and then a statement. Do IR players count against the salary cap?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That was easy.
Yep.
That was easy.
Yep.
And I do agree with you regarding Lemieux. He's looking much better this year, and if he doesn't get hurt, he's looking, I think, pretty good for a backup role. Now, yesterday...
Remember, Tom, just real quick, the trick with Lemieux, we have not seen him against one starter pretty much all camp. So
right, that's true.
different.
Right.
And by the way, he's still got 3 weeks to stay healthy,
thing
too.
Is that he's healthy, exactly.
Right. I mean, and quite frankly, same thing with Pert. I do want to digress for just a second. He's been often injured during his other years here. And now this is year 3. It's the healthiest he's been. And now he's getting a lot more reps because Neal was on the shelf.
Unlike Lemieux, he has been going against the starters for the past
Yes.
week. He's done a nice job.
And he has definitely raised his stock. And by the way, Neal did take reps today. He's still in protocol, according to the coach.
Dable said he is not fully back yet, but he did not rule him out for the game Friday. I'd still be surprised, but he did not rule him out for the game on Friday.
Again, non-contact today. So even though he was in there, non-contact.
No, but he didn't have the non-contact jersey on.
He did not.
Right.
The red jersey was off, but the practice is a non-contact practice. So they were able to get him in there for reps.
Well, that's good. Then he's definitely going to be ready for the start of the season. So.
I would think so.
Yeah, and then yesterday someone called in saying that we didn't know what we had with JMS, and our offensive line was awful, and Danny Jones is well overrated. And I'm calling up to disagree with
guess.
all of those statements.
Charlie's not calling today. Don't worry about it.
I'm not mentioning any names, but he may think
I didn't say the name either, but Paul had to, so now we're stuck.
Listen, I don't know if you noticed, but the other night in Detroit, when Tyrod Taylor was scrambling out to the right, JMS ran out and he kind of cut off the lineman who was chasing him. He didn't hit him in the back because then that would have been a penalty, but he kind of like slid his body in front of him to make that guy veer around him and give Tyrod time to chase.
And by the way,
a savvy move, right?
and Tom, not just did he not hit him in the back, he didn't square him up and crack back him either, which also could have been a 15-yard penalty.
Yep. I know, and he just it was a savvy move. A move, right? it was what you expect from a guy who was in college for 6 years. Yep. And I think he has some NFL blood in his background, if I'm not mistaken. And he was an academic or some type of academic All-America.
He's a smart kid. He's a smart kid.
I don't know about the blood. I'll check into that for you. But here's what I'll say, Tom. It's
his dad played the same high school as Sean O'Hara's dad and wore the same number. That's as far
I don't
as
know if anybody in his background played pro, though. I don't know that. I'm going to tell you this, Tom. I love what I saw from him. It's against my grain. John will tell you. It's against my grain to pump the brakes. It's really hard for me. But I'm trying to pump the brakes and not get too over-enthused until the preseason is done. After those 3 games are done, then I will start getting giddy about rookies.
Oh, and again,
I can't do it yet.
And I want to be clear. I'm not saying Trey Hawkins is some top-level NFL starter. I'm just saying it looks like he's going to be the starter. Do you know why? He's been the starter for 2 weeks.
He's going in that direction.
And again, I say starter. He's the third corner.
Right.
I'm assuming nickel's going to be your primary package, so he would be the outside corner with the Dory in the slot. Now, let me add this about JMS, because I went back. John Michael Schmitz, by the way, Giants rookie center, for the people that don't know the acronym. I went back and I watched every snap he took. I went through the whole tape. It took me like 3 days to get through it because there's lots going on in preseason. But the one thing I will say, and this specifically in the run game, he moved really well pulling. He got to the second level well. But I think there were a couple plays where he actually got shocked and shed by the linebacker on those pulling plays where he filled the hole, where the linebacker got him. He made contact with him, but then the linebacker was able to separate off him and make a play. Another play against the defensive tackle. He blocked him. The defensive tackle was able to get his arms off of him to make the play in the hole. So I thought he moved well. I thought he was assignment sound. I thought his angles were good. But I do think a couple times he let defenders get away from him a little bit after he contacted them to make a couple of tackles. That's what I'm saying.
In other words, you wanted him to sustain the blocks a little longer.
And finish them. Yes, correct. Absolutely.
He does play to the whistle, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
He does play through the whistle, but to sustain is what you're talking about.
If you're an offensive lineman and you get your hands on someone in good position, that guy should not be disengaging from you.
That's the idea.
And that's what I wanted to see a little bit better
That's fair.
in that game.
That's fair.
And I think, personally speaking, I think Danny Jones is going to have a phenomenal year. He's got weapons. He's a second year in the system. He's got wide receivers that can get off the line and get open. He's got a huge tight end now to throw it to. The offensive line is improving, regardless of what the naysayers may say.
Well, Tom, in fairness, we don't know if the offensive line's improved yet. We haven't seen him play in a real game yet.
Well, okay, but
right? Have we seen him play in a real game yet?
No, but we have Andrew Thomas, who's probably the best left tackle in the game.
And he was on the team last year.
Tom, here's what I'm going to say. Don't go anywhere with
Neil
this.
was playing his best before he got hurt, and when
Neil hasn't played in a game yet. Tom, we don't.
I know, but last year,
Tom,
the last couple of games
pump the
before
brakes.
he got hurt, he was playing his best.
Pump the brakes, Tom. Pump the brakes. We have not seen the Giants' starting 5 offensive linemen take one snap so far, either in team drills or preseason games. We haven't seen it. We haven't seen it.
Not even in the scrimmage last week against Detroit.
Now you know why I long for the days of 6 preseason games and then 4 preseason games, and why now we only have 3. I know. I don't want to get on the soapbox, but if there are 2 things that concern me, Charlie, you're going to love me now because I'm going to give you the 2 concerns I have. The concern, one, I've had since February.
And thank you, Tom. Appreciate the call, Bob.
Special teams. I've been talking about special teams coverage units since February. And I think we saw the other night, that didn't go so well. That still concerns me. Okay, they haven't found their core special teams guys yet. My second concern, The starting 5 offensive linemen, John, have not had any opportunity to gel whatsoever. We don't even know exactly who the starting 5 are.
They had 2.5 weeks of practice, but that's it.
And
Not 2 weeks of practice.
and it was not full speed go.
I get it.
So, look, I think you said to me the other day, you think we will see the starting 5 at some point in the next 2 weeks. You said that to me, no?
No. I said I'm sure they'll get Neal in a game at some point in the next 2 weeks. Will he be on the field at the same time as the other 4 guys? I mean,
I don't know.
Do you think Andrew Thomas is playing both preseason games?
No, I don't.
Well, then the answer is probably no then, isn't it?
Well, how do you feel? How do you feel then if all 5 guys are playing for the first time together under live action opening night against the Cowboys? I'm not going to tell you, folks, that doesn't make me a little concerned.
I want to make sure Neal is next to his right guard for a game. If Neal's next to his right guard for a game, I'd be okay with that because I think, Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal don't have to be in sync. The left guard and Evan Neal don't need to be in sync. They play on opposite sides of the line.
Well, if JMS is playing center, I'd like both guards to be in sync with him.
Yeah, but they in theory you could have had the starting 3 inside on the field last week for all we know.
You could have.
Or
they didn't
maybe this week. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see.
It depends who wins those jobs.
But I do think that the 5-man starting unit against the Cowboys might be taking their first competitive snap that night. That's possible.
Which is not the best.
Against Dan Quinn's defense?
And Dallas just got their offensive lineman back this week, too. So
yeah, Zach Martin did his deal.
You might have an advantage against them because maybe he wasn't going to be there. Well, that's not going to be the case.
Too bad. I feel so bad for the Cowboys. Lack of chemistry.
But he's back now. There's no lack of chemistry. That's the point.
Well, no, the fact that he hasn't had many reps with them yet. I mean, he's going to get a few in the next few weeks, obviously.
Something tells me in the 3 weeks, Zach Martin.
Yeah, Zach Martin will be ready to go. I know he'll be ready to go. I know he'll be ready to go. Damn it, I wanted him in the draft. That's how much I knew he'd be ready to go.
All right, let's go to Greg in Atlanta. He's up next. Hi, Greg.
Hey, how you doing, Paul? How you doing, John?
What's up, man?
Wanted to tell you guys, I called the other day and I did not mention that I do love this show, by the way, man, because it keeps us intact daily for the diehard guys, and you get information really fast. So I appreciate that. And I'm just calling. I'm gonna let other callers call because I just called a day ago. But I did have one question.
Don't go too fast.
The guy who OCU Manura was grooming. Whatever happened to him? And I'll take the answer off air, guys, and y'all take care.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. And I don't remember the young man's
Roy
name.
Mibiteka.
Yes.
I don't believe. He's with the Bears.
Is he with the Bears now?
He is with the Bears. And I don't know what his odds are. All I see he's with the Bears.
Was he assigned then as part of the international program, or is he just a regular free agent?
He has been allocated.
There you go. So he's actually now part of the program.
So they could absolutely keep him. There's no reason for them to get rid of him.
3 or 4 years, right? They can keep him as part of that.
Yeah.
Good for him. He was a nice young man.
Really good kid. And I thought he had some tools, but obviously very raw. The Giants are at a position right now where they can't really afford to take time on raw players.
You remember, he was taking up a true roster spot for the Giants. He wasn't taking up the international, roster exception.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit different situation there. Hey, folks, don't forget to go download Giants TV, the Giants' official streaming app. It brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. The 2023 NFL schedule is officially out, and single-game tickets are on sale now. Don't miss the Giants at MetLife Stadium this season. Go to Giants.com/tickets to secure your seat today. And I know at least a couple of those games are completely sold out, so make sure you guys go and get those tickets
I've heard.
Before they are gone. You can take a guess which ones have been going to be difficult to get. It's not a surprise. Let's go to Wilson in Roxbury. He's up next. Hi, Wilson.
Gentlemen.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
What's up?
Hey, listen. I got to get a couple of things off my chest.
Oh, boy.
Nah, John, don't worry about it. It'll be nice. I'm going to try to be normal today. But listen.
Good luck.
Okay. Well, listen. The first thing that I gather from the game is that the Detroit Lions' depth is just much better than the Giants. I mean, the third and fourth stringers, whatever you want to call them, they're just better players than the Giants. I mean,
in what way, Wilson?
In what way? Well, this poor guy, Tommy DeVito, he couldn't even look up before he had somebody in his face. I mean, the pass rush definitely is much better than the Giants, like the second and the third string, or the third and fourth stringers, or whatever.
I will say this, Wilson. Julian Okwara is a legitimate NFL player, and he is on the Giants. He would probably be, just that position specifically, he would probably be a little higher on the Giants depth chart. I think that's fair to say, right, Paul?
Yeah, and quite honestly, his brother Romeo Okwara, who was a Giant, has an NFL resume. Has a resume. He's done things in this league before. So is it any wonder that they got heat?
And I'll say this too. Well, keep in mind though, Haba Baldonado got about 3 quarterback hits in that game too. So it's not like he wasn't back there doing damage for the Giants too.
I understand that. That was from my point of view watching the game. That's what I gathered.
Yep. No, I got you. That's fair.
My number 2 thing is that I don't want to sound mean, but that guy Corey Cunningham and that other guy Wyatt Davis. I mean, it was an embarrassment.
Davis is a guard by trade.
Wilson, as I said in the show last week, I went back. Wyatt Davis has never taken a guard at tackle, taken a snap at tackle. Let me finish. Has not taken a snap at tackle in the NFL or in college. I don't know if he played tackle in high school or not. I have not asked Wyatt that. But he literally has never taken an in-game snap at tackle since he's been in high school at the earliest. So I'm going to say Wyatt Davis, I give you a pass. It was a rough game for Corey Cunningham, especially in the second half.
Yeah, Davis was a sacrificial lamb, Wilson. They needed snaps. You know, he stepped up for the team and said, I'll play there for you. So please don't criticize him for that.
No, I'm not okay, but listen, Paul, but okay, all kidding aside or everything, I mean, you can get somebody killed at doing that.
Yes, I understand, Wilson. None of those guys that were playing in the fourth quarter of that game on either side are probably going to be on 53-man roster. So,
okay.
Don't let that bother you.
No, it doesn't. And this bothers me.
Sounds like it does.
Well, no. What I'm going to say it bothers me. I mean, Brian Dable can't help himself. I like Brian, but he cannot help himself. He needs to be the smartest guy in the room, and it works good when you're winning. Last time I checked, right, they paid $140 million to Daniel Jones, right? I mean, it wasn't a misprint. They paid him like a franchise quarterback. When somebody asks you, has Daniel Jones shown you enough that he doesn't have to play a preseason game, and you say with a straight face, no, he hasn't, that bothers people. It bothers me.
When did he say that? When, Wilson?
Wilson, he said Daniel Jones is going to play this week.
He said Daniel said that Dable told the team everybody is going to play at least some during the preseason. That's the truth. I don't know what you heard. I really don't.
Paul, I mean, you guys have a much better way of finding out. It was a press conference. It was a lady. I think it was a lady. If I'm not mistaken, it was a lady. And they said, has Daniel Jones shown you enough that he doesn't have to play in the preseason? Right? Like that he knows, you know what you got in Daniel. Basically what the question was, you know what you have in Daniel Jones. I mean, why risk him playing? And he would have straight face. But the way he says it, like, no, he hasn't. Like, he's still got to prove stuff to me.
Wilson, here's the thing. You know who else is going to play in a preseason game this year? Dexter Lawrence. You know who else is going to play in a preseason game this year? Andrew Thomas.
They're all going to play.
It was just the way that he said it. I mean, John,
I think you're reading something that's not there.
Wilson, my point is that if they ask about any player on the roster, have they played well enough that they don't have to play in a preseason game, Dable would have answered the same exact way. That's the point I'm trying to make here.
But when you're referring to your quarterback, you don't do that. I think you.
That's your opinion. You don't have to do that. When you're an NFL head coach, if you want to answer those questions differently and plan snaps differently, you go ahead and do that. Brian Dable's allowed to play every guy at least a couple of snaps if he wants to. That's it.
Yeah, it's his philosophy.
Don't be reading into his mind.
By the way, Paul, did Daniel Jones play any snaps in a preseason game last year? Did he? Please answer my question.
No.
He did not.
He did not.
So, irrelevant.
And the truth is, John, if he does get some snaps, which we anticipate he will, according to what the coach had said, it's going to be a series or two and he'll be out.
Maybe a quarter.
And you know what? If he throws a pass or two, it'll probably be a screen. It's not even going to be one where he's dropping back 5 steps.
Yeah, something tells you they're not going to give him the opportunity to get hit much.
No, they're not.
The only guy I would say, least likely to get a preseason snap is probably, of the healthy guys, is probably Barkley.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And I don't know. He might play him a couple snaps for all I know. I don't know.
He might get him in there for a few. But if he does, maybe he'll be a decoy. He won't even touch the ball. Who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows?
Wilson, it's not Brian Dable. If you don't think Brian Dable was a driving force in them paying Daniel Jones last offseason all that money, you are out of your damn mind.
Absolutely.
The first thing Joe Shane and John Mara do is say, hey, coach, who's also the architect of our offense, do you want to have this quarterback here long term? Do you think Brian Dable's like, I could go either way. All right, here's $40 million a year, Daniel. I mean, come on.
No, he hasn't proven himself to me yet.
What are you kidding? I mean, come on.
That's Wilson. You're just imagining stuff.
No, he's reading into too much. Wilson always gets overwrought about what Stephen A. Smith's saying, and then he gets overwrought about this. Wilson, chill. Let's bring some sanity back to the conversation with Charlie in Portland, Maine. No, wait, what? What did I just say?
Oh no! Oh no!
Hi, Charlie.
Oh, you mentioned my name, Beatles.
Your fault.
It is. Tell me, you were not going to call until I made that mistake, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was just going to listen.
All right.
It's on you, man. No, look, what I was just going to say is, please tell me, Paul, you're an old school 101 football guy. You don't do an O-line rotation. Please tell me.
I'd rather not.
Preseason.
Oh, no. Hey, Charlie. My druthers, again, I'm not the coach and I'm not the GM. My druthers, you get your 5 best guys out there, and that's it.
Yep, Charlie, I agree. And shockingly, we're all on the same page.
Yeah, and what are they doing? I mean, if Bredesen and Izudu is comparable, and you want to put a veteran next to, Smith, whatever.
Right, JMS.
Yeah, JMS. Then you use Bredesen.
That's fine.
If these two guys aren't a starting left guard, then go out and get one.
Now,
Charlie, hang up now because you've actually made sense. Hang up. Quit while you're ahead.
Charlie, I will say
Quit while you're ahead.
In theory, I agree with you. I think you make a fair point. I get where you're coming from. I will say this, and this surprised me, to be honest with you. I did not see a noticeable issue or fall off when they did this rotation thing last year from player to player. I don't really think it had a negative impact, which frankly I thought it would. But I don't think we saw that last year, for whatever it's worth.
But when we had great offensive lines, remember they played together for 4 or 5 years? Sherber.
Yeah, you were calling it and said they should rotate in Will Beatty. No, I'm just kidding.
The only time I ever remember in Giants history when they were really good that a flopping, rotating offensive lineman ever worked is when they had Eric Moore and they had Bob Cratch. You remember the 1990 Super Bowl season?
Yeah.
Moore was the first-round draft pick. Cratch was a third-rounder. Moore, for whatever reason, was very inconsistent, didn't seem to have that high-energy, high-intensity, consistent kind of play that they wanted. So they very often would pull him out and put Bob Cratch in. In fact, in the Super Bowl, Eric Moore puked his brains out at halftime.
Yeah, I know.
Couldn't handle the pressure of the game. Yeah. Puked his brains out, and Parcells said, get him out of there, and Cratch came in and played the second half. So, that's not what you want to do.
That was the reason.
That's not what you want to do.
I mean, you may as well go back to Tom Landry and rotate the quarterbacks if you're going to do that. That's stupid.
Yeah, well, now, I'm going to help you out with that one. The reason that the Giants got Craig Morton was because Landry knew that the quarterback rotation was not working, and so he traded Craig Morton to the Giants. And, of course, Dallas wound up using one of those draft picks for Randy White, so we don't have to talk about that any further.
Yeah, exactly. How'd that work out, Paul? That's all right. I just hope we don't see that. Just get the best 5 guys and go with it. And if they stink it up, then bring somebody in. That's all.
Great call, Charlie. Great call, Charlie. Thank you.
Man, I think Charlie going after Wilson actually helps him a little bit. I think it levels him out, gives him time to settle in.
Well, it also gave him a comparatively weak call to walk off of.
Just taking a shot, Dottino.
Well, Wilson was a little bit off balance there. I mean, we had to straighten him out. Charlie actually sounded much more rational after that other call. Look, man, you know me. Folks, I tell it like it is, man. I'm not pulling punches. Let's go.
Run or walk with Giants legends like Paul Dottino. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K race and kids run. Paul will not be there, by the way. Presented by Quest on Sunday, October 8th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative T-shirt after the race day for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at Giants.com/5K. And if you like doing Giant stuff on Sundays, well, consider a season ticket membership. You can take your fandom to the next level. Stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2023 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, visit Giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available.
We're in Miami that weekend to the walk, aren't we?
It was either Miami or Buffalo. I always forget which one.
The 8th?
Yes.
That's Miami.
So you will be sweating on your walks in Miami.
I'll be walking there if you want to come down to Florida and walk with me there.
Do you walk down the beach?
It depends on what beach it is.
Oh, we don't get to that comment. Was that Miami or Jacksonville where you had the bad one?
Well, Jacksonville is where the critters were in
right,
the
that was the
roughage.
critters, but the folks with no clothes, was that Miami?
That was Miami.
Okay.
And I will not be going back there.
The dots, Paulie Dots on South Beach, baby.
Man, the stories I could
tell.
tell.
Look out. All right, let's go to Scott in New Mexico. He's up next. Hey, Scott.
Hey, guys, now I have to follow Wilson and Charlie, so I guess I'll have to do that.
Consider that a blessing.
We are lobbing it up for you, Scott. We have set a very low bar for you today, my friend.
Okay, cool. I'm not really worried about the offensive line. They'll settle down with the players they need, or they'll find some people on the waiver wire, so that's not my concern. My concern
is Scott, in
more,
fairness, you don't want to find starting offensive linemen on the waiver wire. So backups maybe.
Because everybody's going to be looking for offensive linemen on the waiver wire.
You got
Bingo.
it, exactly.
It is a highly sought-after commodity.
Exactly.
That offensive tackles and edge rushers are two things you are not going to find on the waiver wire.
Zippo.
Right. Well, but I still think the Giants will work out a good starting offensive line. So I'm not as worried as everybody seems to be. But my concerns are with the running backs and also with the tight ends, and I'll explain why.
Go ahead.
In the game, and I don't know how much to glean from a preseason game, but Eric Gray rushed for 1.8 yards and Robinson rushed for 1.9 yards. And this was on about six carries each, I think.
Yep.
I think Corbin was the only one who had a decent run of, what was it, 33 yards, something like that. That disturbs me because neither one of them looked very good, and this is against Detroit's second and third tier players.
It was also behind the Giants' third-string offensive line.
That's true.
Right.
No room.
Right. So they still have Brightwell. They still have Breida. Do you think Eric Gray is the answer, or do you think – because they're going to have a backup for Saquon Barkley. He can't play every play. So who is the guy right now who has the heads up, do you think, as the backup, and then maybe a third string running back that they'll probably have to carry on the team as it stands now? And obviously there's a long way to go.
I'm curious to see if Paul disagrees with me, if he's changed lanes on this at all. I still think Breida's your backup, and I think Gray's your third guy.
I agree.
Okay, so you're back on board now.
I'm back on board with Breida being the number 2. And I think, to be honest with you, I'm a little curious about what's going on with Brightwell. I wonder what the injury is that he's been held out for a few days. Coach has not talked about it, only saying that he's nicked up and he's not been available. Again,
I still think you're only keeping 3 running backs, and I think there's a chance you're keeping 4 tight ends.
Okay, and that's the other thing I was going to ask. On the 4 tight ends, assuming obviously Waller and Bellinger are your 2 keys.
And Cager, I think, is your third one.
yes.
Who was your third one?
Cager.
Cager?
Yep.
And that was my question, because if you carry 4 tight ends, is it Sweeney based on they're going to run probably 12 packages?
Sweeney or Myrick? Yeah, so basically the way I look at it, Scott, and I'm not sure this is how the coaches or front office do it, but this is how I look at it. The Giants almost have a room of tight ends, but it's almost like 2 separate rooms within one, right? They're in categories. So you have the receiving side of the room. Not to say these guys can't block, but they're primarily receiving tight ends. Darren Waller and Lawrence Cager. Then you have the other guys who are maybe more blocker first, receiver second. That's the Bellinger, Myrick, Sweeney, and then Ryan Jones, I think, would probably be more on that side of the room too. So that's how I kind of have it broken up. And my thing is that I'm not sure you can just have Waller, Bellinger, Cager, because then if something happens to Bellinger in a game, like, you're in big trouble. Big trouble. I know you can put an offensive lineman there if you have to, but I don't think you want to. It really limits your flexibility on offense. That's why I think and remember, tight ends can make for good special teams guys too in terms of blocking on punts and field goal and all that type of stuff. So for me, I think they end up keeping 4 if I had to guess now, and I would probably say it's probably Sweeney would be number 4 in my opinion.
I'm still going with 3 because I think that Pert would be the 4th tight end in an emergency situation. But there's no right or wrong answer to this because there have been teams that have gone either way before.
Okay.
Hell, one year the Packers kept 5 tight ends. Remember that?
I don't remember that, but it's possible.
It did. It happened.
Okay. My last comment is just a question. They've talked about Eric Gray being a punt and kick returner, but why? You may have discussed this already, or maybe I missed it. Why isn't Jalen Hyatt being considered for that position? He's the fastest guy on the team, I believe. Maybe Paris Campbell and him are equal.
Darius Slayton would disagree. Darius still thinks he's the fastest guy on the team, just so you know.
Right.
Why? I mean, Hyatt has been back there catching them in practice from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He has been, but and this is, I think, and thanks for the call. Appreciate it, Scott. And please listen, we'll continue to answer your question here. Do you think it's because they see Hyatt having a larger role on offense than Gray, so they feel more comfortable giving Gray those touches in the return game because they want to get him involved more? While Hyatt, I mean, at this point, Paul, and again, I'm one that always pumps the brakes on things. If he's out there, Series 1, Play 1 against Dallas, Week 1 at this point, would not shock me. I'm not sure it's going to happen. I'm not sure if I think it's going to happen. But at this point, he's done enough with the ones for me that I would not be surprised. I'm not sure if it's likely yet, but I would not be surprised if we saw a significant number of first-team snaps for him in Week 1.
I think we're in the same category. His arrow's pointing up. It's definitely pointing up.
I mean, what receiver has made more plays than him in camp?
I know. I think
big plays.
I think Hyatt's made more splash plays than any other receiver. I think Slayton and Campbell have made a tremendous amount of plays, but not as many splash plays.
I agree with that. Maybe more individual catches.
Right. Mm-hmm. I'll say this. I think you're right. They may think that in the conventional offense, there's a bigger role as rookies for Hyatt than there is for Gray, so that could easily be a logical reason why they would try Gray on the return game.
And I think they like guys a little bit more mass in the return game.
That's my other reason. Hyatt still, despite the weight gain,
he's a string bean.
I don't know about his durability in the kicking game. Gray, we know, is solidly built.
Yes, he's stout.
He's going to be able to take some nasty hits on special teams a lot easier than Hyatt will. So I think that's another huge reason for it. And I'll go one other reason too. Hyatt, because he came from a limited route tree in Tennessee, has had to learn a very complex playbook very quickly.
Put the return game on his plate too. That's a good point,
right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, that's asking an awful lot of him, isn't it?
I buy that. Yeah.
So I'll give you those 3.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. Let's go to Jay in Charleston. He's up next. Hi, Jay.
Hey, what's going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
What up, man?
Nothing much, man. I just wanted to talk to you guys about all the rookie draft picks and the good job that I think Joe Shane's doing. I mean, I think this is like one of the couple of best drafts that we had in the recent history. I mean, Joe Shane is finding guys at the end of the draft, and almost all the rookies had a really good. I mean, they played pretty well in the first preseason game.
Now, Jay, I will say this. I think honestly, I'll be honest with you, and I think Joe Shane's a great GM. He's done an awesome job. He's a good talent evaluator, but I think the jury's out. I mean, look, the jury's out. Last year, Evan Neal had a rough rookie year. He got better as the season went along a little bit, but he had his ups and downs. Wanda Robinson never played. Darian Beavers never played. Marcus McKeithen never played. Josh Azudu barely played. Micah McFadden's the only other rookie that played a significant amount of time. So you're almost getting 2 rookie classes in this year because last year's class got hurt so much. That's not Joe Shane's fault. That's bad luck. So I think the jury's out on that. Mm-hmm. And Jay, look, I haven't seen enough this year. I don't know what this rookie class is going to be. Am I enthusiastic about what I've seen? Yeah, the fact that 3 rookies are battling their way into potential starting roles in Hyatt, Hawkins, and Banks, is that a really good... Oh, throw Schmitz in there, so that's 4.
Yeah.
That's a really good sign. I'm excited about that. But let's see him in the big-time games, Sunday Night Football, Week 1 against Dallas, before we start saying that this is going to be one of the best classes in Giants history.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Right.
The 2007 class was the best. They all contributed to that Super Bowl.
No, I'm not saying this is one of the best class. I'm saying this is one of the better, like, in the last 10 years or so. When was a better draft than the last couple that we've had?
There's no doubt that the toolboxes on these two classes are certainly more impressive than recent memory. I agree with that. They've got the skills and they've got the tools. How they wind up producing is still out for discussion. And John is 100% right. We always say you take at least 3 years before you judge a rookie class. So it's unfair to even judge last year's now. You can't do it.
And I'll say this. I'll just throw out 2 ones for you. 2019 and 2020 are looking pretty good. In 2019, you got Daniel Jones, Dexter Lawrence, Julian Love, Darius Slayton in one draft. That's darn good. The next year, you got Andrew Thomas and Xavier McKinney. That's also pretty good. So those 2 years back-to-back, I'm not going to argue with that.
It's not bad.
Right. I just wanted to comment on their performances. I guess I was just more focusing on their performances. Like Deontay Banks, for example, he was playing on Jameson Williams for most of the game, who was a first-round pick last year.
Yep.
I mean, he was really good at Alabama. He was getting busy. I mean, he got busy every game, and every game he played at Alabama.
Good player, very fast.
Trey Hawkins. I'm looking at his tape. I didn't know he's 6'3". Is he really 6'3"? I looked it up. He's 6'3"?
I would say 6'2".
6'2".
6'2". Wait, I mean, he has good for a 6th-round pick. He has pretty good cover. I mean, I know he's not going against number one guys, but for what he's playing, I mean, even when he gives up a pass, it looks like he likes to hit. I mean, dude,
yes, he does. He's very physical. Remember, he was originally a safety in college, so he's not afraid to hit people because that's by nature what he likes to do. I will say this to you. Here's the one thing that we do know, because there's a lot of unknowns yet with these guys as they mature and grow. But the things we do know, and I think, John, you'll agree with me. You were sitting in the box with me. The lights were not too bright for these guys in their first pro game, even though it was preseason.
Nope, and that's really
that's a big deal.
First game for a rookie.
That's a big deal.
That's kind of all you're looking for, to be honest with you.
Second thing is, if they, and we some of the assistants talked about this, if you get beat on a bad play, how do you respond? Do you let it carry over and snowball? That did not happen either. Banks gave up a couple of completions. Hawkins gave up a couple of completions. They didn't fall apart. They didn't fall apart.
Right.
They got right back in there and let's go.
And when they did, Trey Hawkins made the hit. Trey Hawkins came down and he made the tackle.
Yeah.
It's not like they even on one play, Deontay Banks, he tackled the tight end, which is a pretty good tackle on the tight end. I mean, he guarded his man. Tight end came across field. He tackled the tight end. I mean, it's not like they're afraid to hit anybody.
Hawkins did miss one tackle in the game, though, allowing the first down.
He did.
Right. Also, I don't think anybody said anything about Javarius Owens. I think he played pretty good. That one play, he was playing safety. If you can watch the tape. He's playing like 15 yards back. The receiver the receiver ran, I think, like a 10-yard dig or something.
Yep.
Somehow he knew that it was going to be a 10-yard dig, and he drives down on it and almost gets the interception. What 6th-round pick we've had recent history that can make that play? And I'm not saying he's going to be a first round. I'm not saying he's going to be starting or anything, but that was a great play. I mean, I hadn't seen a play like that from a rookie.
Look.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate the call.
Appreciate it. I think it's fair to say, John, there's a lot of optimism and there's a lot of hope that all of these guys from these last two classes can give this team something.
Trying to remember the Owens play. Was that the play where the ball was kind of disrupted at the line?
I want to say it was in the fourth quarter.
I think that was on one of the Baldonado quarterback hits, and I think the ball came out a little
next to last drive.
Maybe.
I want to say.
I have to go back and look at my notes, but
you know what? Let me see if I got it. Go ahead. You put that there.
All right, I'll go to our final call of the show because we're getting close to the end here. Coach Marvin in Delaware will wrap us up today. Hey, Coach.
How you doing, John? And Paul left me, so I can't.
I'm here, Marvin. What do you got?
Trust me, I can't get rid of him.
I think that play y'all looking for, I believe that was the play he almost got the interception in the fourth quarter. I believe that was him.
Yeah. It was.
Drove,
I think the ball came out wobbly though on that play because Baldonado hit the quarterback.
Right, and we were trying to figure out in the booth whether the ball was deflected or the arm was deflected. I think Sean and I weren't sure, and the ball came out a little funny.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the cornerback plays look pretty good right now. Like it's like practice, exhibition. Everything's kind of raw and plain. But I liked our corners. Paul has his favorite player, which I like doing that, Paul, where you find a person nobody's really paying attention to. But mine this year is Trey Hawkins. I think Trey is playing a really good corner. I think the corners we have now, we have some size and most important, some speed. And that's what I usually like in corners, those guys that can do that. And then, can they anticipate passes and understand what's going on in front of them.
Hey, look, Coach, you know this. Cornerback is a traits position,
yeah.
All right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
if you're going to be successful at that spot, you're going to have pretty good speed. You're probably going to have good length. And if you check those boxes, maybe you can coach the guy up to make him better than he was before. It's a very traits-based spot.
This is one of those reasons why Joe Schoen does value 6th and 7th round picks more than maybe some GMs do, because he has a belief that his coaches are going to be able to take a guy who you draft late on the 3rd day, who has measurables, and might have a chance to coach him up into a serviceable player.
By the way, that's always been my late round strategy. We've talked about this. I'm always a fine traits guy, and maybe you could. I like that better than find the try hard guy that maybe doesn't have the NFL athleticism. Give me the traits and trust my coaches to coach him up.
That's got to be. It's got to be. It's got to be. But you got to have the staff who can do it.
Correct.
If your staff cannot cultivate that recipe and give you a meal, well, that's a different story now, because you're going to be wasting your time.
Right, and you guys are right on the money. I mean, a lot of the stuff you have to teach, I teach them body language at times, situational football, and what situation are we in when they come out of that huddle? You have to understand that, and you can anticipate that we can put you in the right position. Then their speed and size will make up everything else, and you have to teach those traits. And y'all are perfectly right. Real quick, you was talking about Hyatt running. Someone asking about him running kick returns. I don't know if he ever done it. I don't remember seeing him ever do it in college.
No, and he hasn't either. That's a good point.
He's real fast. Gray is elusive. So Gray understands angles. He hit holes
a little quicker.
And I think Hyatt, I believe, I may be wrong, putting him back there, I think it's just straight line speed, and you need more than straight line speed.
Well, Coach, and you know this too, right? You need to be you want to be able to, on kickoff specifically. I think punt is separate. You could put a wide receiver on punt a little bit more readily than you can on kick, but on kick, and I think you're about to make this point. I apologize for interrupting you, Coach. That you want your running back to be able to read those blocks, and a running back's going to be much more adept at doing that than a wide receiver who doesn't have the ball in his hands as much, trying to read blockers.
No doubt.
That is exactly right, John. You're right on the money. The last, got two more. One is real quick. The other one is kind of quick too. I hear everybody, and Charlie does make good points. Sometimes he just go over the top.
Yeah, it's 100%. Yep.
No.
You can hear some stuff and say, you know what, you got a good point.
Coach, Charlie was good today. Leave him alone. He was okay today.
He was. No, I don't put them down, and I don't try to put down because it's their opinion, and I don't try to do that. And that's where I'm going with this. I treat coaches the same way because I always wanted that. I had parents more than you ever would know, similar to Charlie and the other guy that was talking, where they telling me what their son can do, telling me what plays I should be running. And my thing to those guys were, get your own team and then show me what you're talking about. So I'm the
Coach,
one that runs this team.
I'm so glad that you didn't have a youth program up in Maine because Charlie would have been all over you.
No, I would have shut him down. and the way I can shut him down, I had 95% of those parents believing in what I was doing. So when a new parent comes, my 95% will always take care of those new parents.
Good.
To let them know
That's how you do
how
it.
this program works. So what I'm trying to say is, I agree, and it's my opinion, that my offensive line, I needed those guys to play together so that I personally can see they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand what I have in front of me. I understand the way they're running it, and I don't have a problem with it. I just say, for me, I would run my 5 guys in a game or a couple of series. But these guys, they know what they're doing, and I'm going to trust in the coaching staff. And I'm going to just sit back and see what happens. And I'm not going to criticize of their decisions because it's their team. It's their decisions. They're responsible for those players. And that's how I leave coaching. The last part I have is I want to congratulate you guys. I don't know if you know them or not, but the Oklahoma City Thunder has a coach, Mark Degno, who just got a new contract. Mark Degno was my tight end. So I just want to congratulate.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Congratulations, Mark.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And thank you, Coach.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
Be well.
And congratulations to Mark. That's great. It's really good to see extended family of the show having success. We like to see that.
Excellent. The coaching tree grows.
And, we talked about traits, right? And real quick, because I kind of I don't know if I was on with you. When I went back and I watched Hawkins, I'm like, yeah, he actually plays pretty good coverage. But in college, when the ball got in the air, he kind of got lost and he allowed a lot of catches, even though he was fairly close to the offensive player, the receiver, right? So I went to Lance Zierlein's scouting report on NFL.com this year,
right.
And I guess we saw the same thing. I'm going to read you the overview and the strengths and weaknesses really quick, all right?
Yeah.
I know we're late. I apologize. Hawkins will be a project for teams interested in press corners with above-average athletic traits. He's given up a lot of touchdowns, but those issues are often due to a lack of awareness and ball skills at the finish line. He showed off speed, suddenness, and explosive leaping ability in his pro day, but those elements don't show up on tape often enough due to a lack of instincts as a playmaker. There are tools to tinker with, but Hawkins will need to make significant strides in his development to make a team. Strengths. Good combination of size, length, and long speed. Active hands are accurate with a press punch. Able to phase in stride with deep routes from press. We've definitely seen that in practice.
Mm-hmm.
Improvement in coverage from 21 to 22. And can attack and shed box and run support. Weaknesses. And I'm going to have a point to make after I list these weaknesses for you. Pre-snap instincts are lacking. Hard for me to see that from just watching plays. Right. Lacks proficiency with route recognition and anticipation. Frequently a step slow in making his jump on the throw. Hips get sticky when he bites on route misdirection. I think we've seen that on some double moves too. Sometimes he's a bigger guy. You're not going to be as good on change of direction. And struggles to toggle between coverage and ball location. That means once the pass is up, locating the ball and making a play. All those weaknesses, for the most part, are stuff that you can coach.
All
They're
can be polished.
Not physical shortcomings.
Correct.
It's stuff you can work on pre-snap instincts. You can teach a guy how to read plays, right? You can work on route recognition and anticipation
Yes, you
by
can.
teaching them in the
Schoolwork.
film room.
It's
right.
homework.
Step slow in making his jump on the throw. Well, if you know what the offense is doing a little bit better, you get better anticipation, right? Toggling between, teaching correct technique and looking back at the ball once it's in the air. All those major weaknesses are things that with good coaching, we know what a good defensive back coach Jerome Henderson is, can get corrected in coaching. So I just thought when I read that today, after they brought up, I just was looking at Hawkins' height when the caller asked about the height. And I'm like, let me see what he said.
Zierlein knows this player.
I'm like, wow, he freaking nailed this.
Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. And I will say this, one thing I will say that he's already improved on of the weaknesses thing, he comes up a lot quicker in anticipation on running plays. Have you ever seen when they try to go stretch wide on him? He's quick to disengage and come up and try to help out on the play.
Yep.
And that already is showing me that he's starting to get it up here.
Yeah, and I do think one thing, and again, when you're a press corner, you're young, it's tough to get your head around. On deep balls especially. Banks and Hawkins, that's one thing I think they'll continue to get better at as they get more and more reps going down the field. But they do a really good job of timing the ball arriving and getting their hand in there to prevent the catch. They're not necessarily getting their head around to make a pick. And frankly, year one, okay, I'm cool with that, man.
Oh, I get you.
Just get your hand in there and don't let them complete the pass, and I'm fine with that.
The ancillary thing, and I know we're long, but if Hawkins that is, because we know Banks is going to be there. He's going to start. Banks is going to start at one corner. That's a lot.
There hasn't been one rep with the first teams that Banks has not been on the field.
I mean, he's going to be. All right, so we're going to assume that. Okay. If Hawkins is able to continue his trajectory and locks down that spot, the benefit to that is you now make the slot better because you can have Adoree in there.
Much better.
So you've actually helped yourself in 2 spots.
Yes. I'm not sure Hawkins is a better outside corner than Adoree Jackson at this point. So I'm not sure you're necessarily getting an improvement there, but you know what I'm saying?
He's not better than Adoree Jackson, but he has more desirable traits. Even Adoree said he's taller
correct.
and longer
Yes.
than I am.
I know what you're saying.
And that can give him some room to develop just by the fact that he's so long, so tall, and so fast. Yeah. He doesn't have to play perfectly.
And just from a team building perspective, if Hawkins is the real deal, and again, the jury is out. We have to see it in real games against real number 1 wide receivers in a real game.
Yep.
If you can land a starting cornerback with a 6th round pick, you have him for 4 years, or in this case, 4 years. For that little money, it makes your roster building exercise when next year, Adoree Jackson, who by the way mentioned the other day his agent had talked to the Giants about an extension, if you can't get something done with him, well, then you have to go out and either pay another corner or draft one high. Well, if Hawkins is real, that's like a $15 to $20 million player or a 1st or 2nd round pick that you now do not have to use on a second cornerback.
That's correct.
That is a really, really, really big deal. It's a big deal.
It's like a lottery ticket.
It's a primary position. Yeah. That is a premium position that's tough to find. And if you can fill that with a 6th round pick on that dollar value for 4 years, that is a big deal. Go ask the Seahawks how nice it was to have Tariq Woolen as their starting corner last year.
This is also why it's so important to have an excellent staff. Mm-hmm. Because not only do you have to get really, really fortunate to draft a guy who's got that potential, but you've got to have the staff that can bring it out in him and make him worth what you think he could be worth. If you don't have the coordinator or the position coach who can do that, then you're still in the same boat you were before.
Yep. Paul, good stuff.
Good.
Sorry for going late, folks. I thought that was a good conversation at the end, though I wanted to get to it.
Fun stuff.
And I don't know when Paul and I are going to be on again next, so I wanted to make sure we got that in. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. To Thespian Don. We'll see you next time right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live.